All right, Bible, kindergarten and first grade. Now, you should have been able, again, to kind of read the title slide for this. You should have been able to see Tuesday, March 31, and then also to see that it says Bible video and on it, to know that this is the video to watch for Bible. So yesterday we played that game and we talked a little bit about hope. So today we're going to keep talking some about hope, and we're really going to move that into thinking about a promise. So, if someone makes you a promise, you kind of believe you can hope it will be true if it's someone you can trust. So, if your mom says that your grandma and grandpa are probably going to come visit for Christmas, you can hope in that promise because you know that your mom usually tells you what's true. If your dad says, tonight we're going to have spaghetti for supper and that's your favorite meal, you can hope that that's going to come true because you trust those people. You know that when they make promises, they usually do what they say. So if you have somebody who usually doesn't do what they say, it's a lot harder to hope that those promises are going to come true. So the value in a promise is not really the promise itself. The value in a promise is whether you can trust the person who makes the promise, because we want to have hope. And you can have hope when you trust the person who makes the promise. So today we're going to start thinking about some of the promises God has made and being able to trust in those promises. So you're going to need pencil, eraser, crayon, something to write or draw with, and you're going to need your encounter journal. So go ahead and get both of those things right now. All right, we're going to talk about some of the promises that we said God made to us this year. So you might remember when we talked way back at the beginning of the year about creation, we talked about how God had so much love. He wanted to make the people to love. Remember, we had kind of a bookmark like this. And then we said the people chose not to really love him. Remember, Satan deceived them, the snake in the tree. And then they were thrown out from the garden. But God had a plan to bring them back. And the plan involved Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. And that then the question is whether or not we're going to accept that sacrifice. So that was one set of promises God made. Remember, he promised to the woman that the child would be born and the child would crush the snake's head, and the snake would bruise the child's heel. Rainbow, remember with Noah's Ark? The rainbow. So if you have your pencil boxes, you could be doing this in colors. The rainbow, remember God made the promise that he would never cover the whole earth again with the flood. And in fact, I'm going to add that snake one in here too. Remember the snake here? That God said there would be the baby born. Here's my baby kind of wrapped up in swaddling clothes. And the baby would grow up to crush the snake's head, but the snake would bite the baby's heel. That's kind of part of this whole thing here. So there was the rainbow with Noah and the ark. And then do you remember Abraham? God told Abraham to go to a new country. And he said, I'll give you so many children. It will be like all the sand, all the dust in the world. And then he also said to Abraham that the children would be like the stars in the sky. And that everyone on earth would be blessed through them. Do you remember Joseph's dream? Or not Joseph's dream, Pharaoh's dream that Joseph interpreted? I'm not going to try to draw the cows right now. You can draw the cows if you want to. The dream had all those stalks of wheat with lots of nice big fat grains on the top. And then there was all those other little stalks came up that were all withered and dried up and no good. And they went and they ate the good ones up till the good ones were gone. So God sent the dream kind of to warn people, but also as a promise that I'm watching you and I'm taking care of you and I'm looking out for you. And eventually all this stuff will end and life will get back to normal. So when we think about these promises we've already talked about, we know with this one, yes, God did fulfill that promise. He took care of them through the famine. We know with this promise that Abraham's children would be like the stars in the sky and that they would be blessings. Yes, that's part of this one over here. It's one of Abraham's children that ends up becoming the child and blessing the world. Abraham having children like the dust of the earth or the sand on the seashore. Yes, that did happen. The rainbow promise God has kept too. We have floods sometimes, but never a flood that covers the whole earth again. God has kept that promise. When we start looking at this promise here, we know that part of it has been kept, right? We know that Jesus has come to die. We know that Jesus has come as a baby. And some people say, well, that part about the snake biting the baby's heel, that happened when Jesus died on the cross. That part about the snake's head getting crushed, though, we know we still have Satan and sin in the world, don't we? So not all of this has happened yet, right? Creation and people choosing to sin, that's happened. Jesus being born as a baby and dying, that's happened. We're just waiting for the last little bit of this promise to be fulfilled now. Boys and girls, of all of those promises that we have studied so far this year, we know that God fulfilled his promises in all those stories in Genesis that we read. The only one that hasn't really been completely finished yet is the one about salvation. Now, some of you guys have asked some really important questions this year about why Jesus had to come and die and how Jesus is also God. Well, some of all that mystery is wrapped up in the Easter story, which we're going to start talking about now. That last promise of God's that isn't completely fulfilled yet is the one that really, a lot of it goes around Easter. So the rest of this week and next week, we're really going to be talking about Easter and what's that all about and how, because we know we can trust God's promises in other ways, we can trust his promise to take care of our salvation, especially now at Easter.